car salesman. What do you think of car salesman, or what's the stereotype that a car salesman possesses? Not by us, but what is that? If I asked you, what is your opinion?
I think the stereotype is very negative.
Okay.
Price gouging, bad quality, lying to you into your face, trying to sell for the profits. So I wouldn't say it's very positive. I do know some people who worked as car sales managers,
Mhm.
and I got to know them once they left the job. And so they also had a lot of negative things to say. So that is just my perception.
Okay. Recruiters are not far off from that. So,
Welcome to Occupational Insights, where we discuss jobs and career opportunities. Hi there. Today we're talking to Michael. Michael is a Penn State graduate and is a senior recruiter in a Fortune 100, working for a biotech company. Moreover, he has 10 years as a recruiter, and in his free time, he is a host of a Paddy the Wagon podcast. Hello, Michael. How are you doing
hey, how are
today?
you today? I'm doing great, thanks.
Doing awesome. Where are you located today?
I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Well, hello from a snowy Canada.
It's not snowy
Um,
here. It's nice today.
like you, it's been snowing. It's like -5 here today. Not so sunny. So hopefully, it's getting warmer, but who knows? It's Canada. Can be a snowstorm tomorrow. So
Absolutely.
let's jump right into the questions because I think we do have a lot of questions for you, especially in this tech climate with all the layoffs and all the turbulence in the industry. I think a lot of people would actually need your advice as a
Sure.
recruiter.
Sure.
Can you
Absolutely.
tell us a bit more about your background?
Sure. I have been recruiting for over 10 years. Actually, I just did the math the other day. I think it's about 16 years. And I actually started off in IT, right? I was a help desk analyst and went to school for information systems. So I dealt with a lot of recruiters. And like a lot of people, when you go to school, you think you want to do one thing and you end up doing something else by the time it's all said and done. And I've always had the ability to talk with people. I enjoy uh, conversing with people, which is one of the reasons I'm here today. And that really couples well with being a recruiter and having that dialogue with people, learning about them, trying to find out what they want to do with themselves, and try to offer advice any way I can.
Did you always want to work in tech, or did you change your mind too?
I've always, I think the word nerd or geek is a little more accepted now. I've always been a little bit of that person. So I've always been fascinated by computers, the first time I ever played with one, or video games or anything like that. So yeah, I would say I've always kind of been, I would lean towards technology.
That's awesome. How was your Penn University experience? How did the 4 years?
Good. It was good. Yeah. So yeah, I went to Penn State. Then I switched. I was originally going to be a meteorologist,
Why
and
did why did you switch? Sorry,
I don't know. I
so
don't know.
different.
What's funny, you're gonna laugh at this now. I don't know if I wanted to be on TV. So, it's one of those things. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was dating a girl at the time. Her dad was a pretty successful IT leader, and sort of got me interested in that field. So I had switched kind of career paths and went kind of that route.
Do you think your education, like your formal education, helped you to be where you are these days?
Yes, I would say overall it did, right? So even though I switched fields, right now I'm the recruiter versus the IT person or the help desk person, whatever you'd like to say. It actually it helps me because I recruit a lot of the people that I used to work with, or the person that I used to be, or the people that I would report to. So given my technology background, it was it they just coupled very nicely.
It seems like your career was pretty linear. You went to university, then you started one job, another job, and it was all in one field. Do you think this is where you see yourself in the next 5, 10 years as well? You like what you're doing and you would like to continue doing it?
I absolutely love what I do. Yeah. Things change. I could see myself recruiting maybe for a different company or a different group within my organization, which, by the way, I absolutely love where I work. Like you said, we're a biotech firm that kind of feeds that inner nerd in me. And a lot of the products that we put to market help people, they save lives, makes the environment better and safer. So we do a lot of really great things. So I have no intention to leave, but I do believe that I like being a recruiter enough that I could see myself doing this for the rest of my life.
Were you always working for big companies, well-known companies, or did you start little?
So I actually started off working for smaller companies. So as a recruiter, right, there's what would be called corporate recruiters, which I am now. So I am employed by, well, I was going to say my employer, but so I work for the bigger company. I'm basically HR. Okay, so I work alongside human resources. I work with the hiring managers. Let's say they need to hire an IT manager or a finance manager. They would open up the job requisition, and I would have an intake meeting with them, get the job posted, learn a little bit about what they're looking for in the ideal candidate, and I would fill the role that way. When I started off, I worked for an agency. So, what agencies do is they will enter into a contract with an organization. So, a big company like ours, we may need help from time to time. Maybe there's a specialized firm that works with software developers, and maybe we can't find one. So, we would engage that firm. We come to an agreement on the price and the fee. It's usually a percentage of the first year's salary for for the person that's being placed. So I used to work for a firm like that. Those jobs are mostly you get a smaller base salary, but you make commission off of the placement. So it's effectively a sales job. So that I've enjoyed doing both because I got to see kind of the full, I guess, the gamut of the recruiting life cycle.
Can we dive in more into the benefits of working for a bigger company? What are the benefits and what are the downsides of choosing a bigger, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 players?
Sure. The I think the most important thing is, well, technology, right? So a big organization like this has more technology in place, whether it be a new HR system of record or a recruiting platform, where some smaller firms may have, they could use something like an Excel spreadsheet or just go onto the internet, any job boards, LinkedIn, try to find people that way. So from a resource standpoint, a job security standpoint, I definitely prefer working for the bigger corporations. With that said, I mean, I think one of the downsides, and certainly not at my current organization, but you feel you don't feel a part of something. I think in a lot of cases, you just feel like an employee, or like, hey, I'm employee number 62118 or something like that. So it loses that personal touch. What's great about the place that I work, there's so many business the divisions and things like that within the organization that it actually has a smaller company feel within an organization that has 100,000 plus employees worldwide.
That sounds really interesting. And I think another question is, how does your day to day look like comparing the small company life versus the big company?
Sure. So with for example, when I worked at the smaller company, you would say, for example, I would have an open job rec for the company that I work for now. That is all I do all day. Every person I call, it is the intention that I want to place this person at this organization. Um, so it is very much cold calls. It's going through old resumes, new resumes, trying to find people that may be interested. A lot of the people are job applicants, right? So they're unemployed or they're actively looking to leave their current role. Those people, I think at the surface level seem like they are the ones that you want to reach out to. I think in reality, a lot of the times it's the passive candidate. It's when somebody reaches out to you on LinkedIn or sends you an email when you're not looking and says, hey, I have this great opportunity for you. Would you like to talk with me for a couple minutes? And, that can kind of pique your interest. And yeah, sure. I have 5 minutes. I can talk to you and we'll see, see how that goes. So, yeah, so it's a very sales like approach when you work for the agency versus now it's more of an HR feel. I currently am recruiting on probably 30 to 35 open requisitions. So that's 35 different hiring managers with 35 different needs, 35 pools of
Mm.
candidates. Some of these job recs have 100, 200 candidates. So if you take, and you do the math, I mean, it's a lot of people to try to connect with. It's a lot of people to see if they're qualified. So the day to day is a lot different with corporate versus agency recruiting.
Talking about candidates, you've mentioned that there are passive, there are active ones. You've been in the industry for over 16 years now. In your perspective, how did the candidate profile change over the years? Did they become more active or passive themselves within these years?
It's like a roller coaster. I don't know if you like roller coasters, but it's the analogy of up and down. All right. I think in a strong job market, you have people that want to stay put, but it's also an active job market. So there's more jobs out there to be had. So that may have people looking a little more than they would, right? In a down job market, which a lot of people would say we have now, hopefully we're coming out of that, you have people being laid off. So in reality, you may have more people looking for jobs. So, during ups and downs in the economy, you're still going to have the ups and downs in the available candidates, the candidates that are actively looking. So for me personally, right now, if you were to ask me, are you looking for a job? My answer is no. It's, in my opinion, not the best economy. I'm very comfortable with where I work. They take care of me. I feel valued. I feel like a really like a member of a team. I have no interest in exploring opportunities. But if again, the economy got better and maybe more job, it's hard. It's really difficult to kind of quantify candidates versus the job market because there's a little bit of everything mixed in with both types of economies.
In this economy, and again, it's fluctuating, it changes every day. We have something new coming out, the news, something happens, another natural disaster. People feel uncertainty. If one really, really wants to find a job, how will they do that? Do they reach out to you? Do they just go on every channel, every website, apply as much as they? So it's volume over quantity. What is the good way right now to find a job or to secure a job?
So my advice that I give to people when they're not working is if you don't have a job, your job should be to find a job. So there is a level of annoyance that an active job seeker could come off as annoying. And now nobody annoys me because I've been unemployed. I've looked for jobs. But if I would email you, if you were the recruiter and I'd email you every day, hey, is there a new job opening? Hey, have you heard anything about that job I applied to? That can be a turnoff for people. When you're not working, every day seems like a month. When you're employed, it doesn't, that clock doesn't work like that. So my advice to people is to, one, realize they're not the only person looking for a job. A lot of the times you hear things like, I didn't hear back from you. I applied to that job. I was perfect for that role. That job, I check off all the boxes. I can do every bullet point on that job description. What people don't realize is there are 30 to 40 to 50 other people that also have all those same qualifications. So there's a bit of ego, I think, that we all have as human beings. But it's good to see both sides of that, right? As a job seeker, I never knew how many resumes companies of our size get. I have a job open right now. I think I have 600 applicants,
Wow,
probably 500 or so that are qualified. I don't have enough time in a month to talk to all those people. So unfortunately, a lot of those folks, they won't hear from me, and it has nothing to do with their qualifications or their skill set or their personality. It's just strictly a volume thing. So
absolutely. Do you feel like these days you have more or less work than 5 or 10 years ago?
I have. That's a great question.
It just
Different
feels like
work.
different. Okay.
Different work. So when you when I worked for an agency, for example, or if I worked for a smaller company, you work harder
Mm.
on on fewer things. You work more on fewer things. And now I feel like I work harder on a lot of things. So yeah, it's we had a reduction in force at our company. There was a good number of recruiters that were laid off. So being in biotech, our company had a lot to do with making the COVID test kits. So right there was however many test kits. Chances are, if somebody on this planet had a to take a COVID test at one point, chances are we may have been the company that produced that. We've worked with vaccine manufacturers, medical device folks, things like that. So we had a number of people that we staffed heavily up during the pandemic. And then when that started to go away, we had too many employees. So there was a reduction there. So some of that work has fallen on us. The recruiters that were still with the organization. So yeah, it's a weird question to answer just because, when there's more work to do, you hire more people, and when there's less people, there's not enough people to do the work. So the people that remain get the work. So I think the important thing is always staying busy, and I think when you're busy, you have job security, and that's kind of how I look at it. So I'm busy enough that I don't feel like I wake up every morning and go, I wonder if I'm going to have a job today. I'm pretty certain I'm going to have a job today and tomorrow and for the foreseeable future.
I think nowadays people value stability
Absolutely,
over.
absolutely.
And so going back to the candidate selection, I think another question that is getting asked oftentimes is, do I really need to go to school? Do I need a 4-year degree? Do I need a bachelor's? Sometimes we hear that master's is the new bachelor's. Everyone is expecting you to go to school for 6 years now, maybe PhD at some positions.
Yeah.
From your perspective, how relevant or how valuable is that?
I think it depends on what you do, right? If you were going to have surgery tomorrow, I don't think a bachelor's degree is going to cut it. I don't think I have an associate's and 5 years of experience.
Mhm.
Cutting somebody open with a knife is you're going to want that person that's been a doctor, hopefully for longer than 10 years. I don't know. I've never had to experience that, but I don't value a degree for every job that's out there. I think degrees are overrated more often than not. I think that, and here's the thing. I think you've heard a lot of people talk about this. One of my favorite people to hear talk about education is Mike Rowe, and he was the host of Dirty Jobs, and he's talked with Congress about the need for skilled trades in the United States. I know that's probably I can only speak because that's where I'm from, but there's probably a lot of places where that's not an issue. A long time ago, and I'm going to make this up, let's say 30 years ago, the idea was if you don't go to school and you don't go to college, that you're maybe not as intelligent as the people that do, or you're not going to get good jobs like those folks get. So what happened is you would see a switch in skilled labor or certain types of fields where people would get this degree, they would go get these jobs, and that's what everyone did. And then a house needs built, or a the plumbing breaks in your house, and then you go, well, I need a plumber. Well, everyone went to college. We don't have plumbers anymore. We don't have truck drivers. We don't have people that do all these jobs that we said weren't good enough. So, there's trade schools, I think, for a lot of things. There's work experience that makes up for a number of degrees. But yeah, what I think we've seen is I think we've seen a number of kids go to school and get degrees in fields that I don't want to say don't really exist, but that don't have the amount of jobs available that maybe some of the kids were told they did. Or, if they weren't kids, they went back to school. Sometimes people chase a passion that maybe is something they really, really love. Like I have a guitar next to me. I'm not any good at it. I really, really like playing it, but that doesn't mean I should go get a degree in music. It's not going to, in a lot of cases, add to things. So I think it depends on what people want to do with their lives. But I'm a believer that if you have a good personality, you have good communication skills, that you're friendly and you're kind and you're respectful, that you can be taught the things you don't know. But if you have a bad attitude and you're ignorant and you're rude, those are things we usually carry with us for the rest of your life. And I just think you can't unteach somebody to be mean. We're it's ingrained in us. That's who we are. So yeah, I believe a good solid work ethic really takes care of everything.
Besides the work ethics or the positive work environment, let's talk about the compensation. If somebody new wants to enter the HR field, the recruitment field, what is the compensation they should ask for nowadays? What is expected? What is normal?
Uh, Good question. I would say, if we go back and we break down the corporate jobs versus maybe some of the agency recruiting that I mentioned, the agencies will have maybe a lower base salary, but they have an unlimited, commission structure. So if I place somebody at that company, I may make a $2,000 commission check. If I do that a whole bunch of times, I may make a lot of money. In a down economy, you may not make as much. So your salary can fluctuate year to year. But if I was to take a guess now, I would probably say you could expect a starting salary. I'll give a range, maybe anywhere from 30 to 60,000 US dollars for a base pay, and then a commission structure on top of that. At the end of the day, if you're going to want to be a top performer and you can eclipse $100,000 easily, but it requires a lot of effort and a lot of people to go to work, with you being the recruiter placing them to kind of see that be a reality. Flip side of that, on the corporate side, you don't have that commission structure, so there's going to be a higher base pay. So because I'm corporate right now, my base pay is going to be a little higher than it was an agency recruiter. But if you come to work for us, my paycheck doesn't go up at all. So let's say anywhere from, I don't know, 40,000 to potentially 140, $150,000 a year. A lot of that has to do with where you live too, though. So I'm in Pittsburgh, which is generally flat, more like the national average, if you will, in terms of compensation. If I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area or New York City, obviously the pay in those cities would be more.
And how is your day to day life? I know we spoke about it in the production of time, but it sounds like you have a fast paced environment around you and you're constantly looking. You're kind of like on a manhunt at this point. Is it really 9 to 5, or do you work overtime, and how much is that? Or do you just log out at 5 and you do your thing, play the guitar, have the podcast going? How does that look like?
That's a good question as well. If there is my, how do I want to word this? I don't cure cancer. I don't perform a role that is life and death for anyone. So I believe in a good work life balance. And a lot of people work a lot of jobs where they'll work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They may make a lot of money, but they're not happy. And so I've got two children, I've got a wife, and it's important to me that I have my time to unwind so that I'm the best version and the hardest working version of me when I am working. So as a recruiter and what I do right now, I can control my own schedule. So there are a couple nights of a week that I work a little later. So I usually work about 9 to 5, like you said. There are days where I will get out early because I have to take my daughter to dance, or my son has basketball or something like that. I'm out the door. My coworkers know, don't call me after this time. If you do, I'll call you tomorrow morning or send you a text back. But there are nights where I'll work later. But what I do, and an old coworker taught me this, is I absolutely jam my Monday through Thursday, completely filled with phone calls, talking to candidates, talking to managers. Naturally, when I go from phone call to phone call or meeting to meeting Monday through Thursday, that doesn't leave me a lot of time to do a lot of the little things that are important to my job. So I actually block my Fridays completely. So I kind of use it as a catch all day, which is what I call it. So anything that got pushed off from Monday through Thursday, I catch it on Friday. I get caught up. I send the managers new resumes on Fridays so that they can look at them Monday morning, or they can look at them before the weekend. And then I can just repeat the process going into that next week.
If somebody had to ask you, what does make one a successful recruiter at the beginning of your career, right? What would you say? what is the advice or what are the skills it takes to be a good in your occupation,
Okay.
a good
So
employee?
I'm going to use an analogy that I don't personally feel this is true, but I'm going to ask you in Canada. Okay. So, car salesman. What do you think of car salesman, or what's the stereotype
Ah,
that a car salesman possesses? It not by us, but
uh,
what is that? If I asked you, what is your opinion?
I think the stereotype is very negative.
Okay.
Price gouging, bad quality, lying to you into your face, trying to sell for the profits. So I wouldn't say it's very positive. I do know some people who worked as car sales managers,
Mhm.
and I got to know them once they left the job. And so they also had a lot of negative things to say. So that is just my perception.
Okay. Recruiters are not far off from that. So, what I tell people, and when I'm talking, they laugh at me, but when I talk with people, I say, I'm a recruiter who hates recruiters. And the reason I don't like recruiters is because a lot of them have that negative stereotype that a car salesman may have, or that stereotype you have a car salesman. They don't get back to you. They lie to your face. They don't provide you with the information you need to make an informed decision. As a recruiter, I have the ability to lie to people all day. I can control what people do by lying to them and saying the wrong things. So if I, now we'll just throw numbers out there. If I know that you need to make $100,000 a year and I have a job that pays $70,000 a year, if I talk to you and I lie to you and I say, yeah, I mean, we can do 100,000, that's great. That's easy. No problem at all. In my head, I know we can't do it, but I'm thinking that I just have this wonderful job that for some reason you're just going to take $30,000 less on. And then when the job offer comes out, I say, congratulations, here's your job. It pays 70,000. And you go, timeout. I told you going into it how much I needed to make. And it was, yeah, I didn't know that, or sorry, it's a little short. Like, people lie. And I dealt with so many recruiters as an IT professional early on in my career that I couldn't stand them. I never felt like I was being told the truth. So I have a rule with people, and that is I will always be honest. I will tell you the truth, even if it is not what you want to hear. I've ended phone calls after 5 minutes talking with people because I knew the role they were interested in, we couldn't afford to pay them, or it wasn't the right fit for them, or there was something that made it not the ideal job for them. I think if you're honest with people, and you work hard, and if you put yourself in the candidate's position and say, what would I do here, or how would I want to be treated here, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. And I think if you do that as a recruiter, you're going to have success. um, I don't possess a skill set that is unique to me. I'm honest. That so therefore I don't lie to people. I try to be as transparent as possible. If they ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I'll try to find the answer for them. And I've told people that have had competing job offers with our company, I've said, "Hey, I'd take the other job." And they're like, "Wow, like, are you really telling me to take a job at another company?" And I'm like, "Listen, I'm not telling you this because I'm putting our company down. I'm not saying that our job is a bad job, but we can't compete with that salary. It's closer to your home. You have a little better work-life balance. Their 401k is better, or whatever the case is." So I've told people to take a job at another company, and the respect that I've felt come back in return. It's like they'll tell you things like, I've never met anybody as honest as you that's a recruiter. To me, like, I sleep good at night. And because it's just being honest with people. And like I said, if you had a family member that was lied to by a recruiter, or you were lied to by a recruiter, you would understand. The world needs more honesty. It needs more decency, the way we interact with people. And I think that if I can wake up every day and go to bed every night saying I was honest with people, I didn't mislead anybody, and I tried to be kind, I'm that's the advice that I give with people that want to be a recruiter. Just treat people the way you want to be treated.
Absolutely. It sounds like a very sustainable approach to work, very ethical. And, circling back to the candidate, you said you can have 500 qualified specialists for one job. Besides the work experience, what are the outstanding skills or features that you look in a person when you consider them for a position? Is there
Okay.
something that you always pay attention to?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'd like to go back to the point you just brought up. When we have qualified candidates, right? You can only hire one person. Okay. If I have 500 qualified candidates, I will email those resumes around. I will say, "Hey, I had this great resume come through, this candidate profile. Do you know any peers or any other finance managers or IT managers perhaps that may need a skill set like this?" So I actively try to push those resumes out to other people because, again, just because you're not hired for the job doesn't mean you don't possess the skills for the job. So there's that. The qualities that I look for in people are probably the qualities I look for in my friends. I think that if you're accountable and you can own your part of the job, right? If your job says that I need to do these 10 things, I think that you should show up every day and be able to do those 10 things. And I think you should enjoy doing them. I like people that are looking for my job, not a job. And it's very easy to tell who's applying to 100 jobs. Again, if you're looking for a job, there's no problem with that. But I've interviewed people and they're like, I don't know what your company does, or which role is this again? I applied to so many. That doesn't make me feel special. That doesn't make me feel like my time is valued to them. And that's okay. I hope they find the job they want, but it's most likely not going to be with my organization because we want people that want to work for us, that have the ability to do a little research and know the people that they're talking to, know my first name, answer the phone. I mean, it's amazing how many people, tell me they'll talk with me and they don't get back to me. On the flip side of that, recruiters don't always return emails as well and don't call people. But, I think if you have a passion for something, and if I'm a recruiter on a job, and if I talk with you about a finance opening or an IT opening, and you're like, this is the company I've always wanted to work for, and this is the exact job that I want. I've been trying to get into this organization for years, and I saw this, and I was so excited. That's the type of personality I want. I want people that have drive. I want people that want to be better tomorrow than they were today, and I want people that want to come in and make the people around them better. I think that's one of the things about our company that I enjoy is you want to hire people that are better than you. And I think people have a fear of that. Like if I hire somebody that's smarter than me or better than me, then they'll make me irrelevant. And I don't see it that way. I think that if you're trying to build a team of people, you should always strive to have the smartest and best people in your organization. And you should want to see the people that you hire be promoted because that means you did your job the right way. So, yeah, I hire the person first. And I feel that we can teach any skill needed if we have the right person.
Absolutely. And what if somebody wanted to become a recruiter like you are today? You know, a person, a successful specialist in his field who's working for an amazing company with a good life balance. And maybe I'm in my 30s and I want to change my occupation and I don't know where to start. What should I do? Is it too late for me?
No, you can always be a recruiter. I think it's definitely not for everyone. Um, it's early on you've got to get experience to have the experience. So a lot of first time recruiters will work for say an agency like I mentioned. There's agencies out there that will hire recruiters with no experience, and it's a grind. Get on the phone, call 100 people a day, try to get anyone you can on the phone, tell them about the job, move on, get on to the next. So it's a repetitive cycle of just communicating with people via email, phone call. I think people do. I'm old school. I don't do text messages. I think there's something very personal about a text message. Um, I think you should know the person you're texting, but I know recruiters that they'll just send a text to somebody, and it's like, dude, I would never respond to that. But you gotta put the effort in to really find out one if you're good at it and two if it's for you. But yeah, you can absolutely be a recruiter, and then I think once you have that experience and you understand really what your place is and what role you play in somebody's ability to find a job, right? Because right now I do what's called full life cycle recruiting. I go through from applicant stage all the way through to job offer. I discuss benefits. I work with people on their 401ks, filling out their new hire paperwork, getting people started. So it's really from beginning to the end of the process. Like when they start and they are finally sitting in that seat, that's when my job is done.
Besides a full-time job, I know that you also have your own podcast, Paddy the Wagon podcast. Can you
Yeah, the
talk
Paddy
briefly
Wagon
about it?
podcast. Yeah, so I thought it was kind of cool when we connected online, and so I have a friend of mine that started a podcast a few years ago, and I'm not really sure what happened. Him and the guys that did the podcast, they just don't do it anymore. I think somebody moved or things changed with life or something like that. So in talking with him, he said, hey, I'd love to do a podcast, and I was like, dude, I wanted to be a weatherman. Like I wanted to be on the radio. Like I would love to be on a podcast. And then there's the whole idea of what are we going to talk about? Like you have such a great platform here with what you're trying to do. It's like, hey, let's talk to people about their careers and share information and, maybe answer any questions that people have. We're just a couple guys that, Irish Americans. So that's, Paddy Wagon kind of came from a little play on words there. We'll have people on our show. We'll have a drink with them. Talked with people that have interesting careers, things like that. We've talked with social workers, actors, actresses, doctors, first responders. So we're in the process of launching the show. We've recorded about 10 to 15 episodes so far, but as you know, there's a lot of editing and post production that goes into a lot of this stuff to make these things work. So I don't know, if you record an hour and a half of content, you really got to try to trim that maybe down to an hour. So, but yeah, it's called the Paddy Wagon podcast. We're hoping to be live here in the next couple months. We just want to make sure we have enough episodes. We're going to be releasing every couple weeks, and at the end of the day, just trying to make people laugh and have a good time and share some stories from our lives because we're a couple goofballs.
It sounds like you're very involved in different fields of your life and different, just so many things: guitar, the podcast, the work, the family life. I think my last question, that is still so relevant and important to many people nowadays, is where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Hmm. Well, hopefully still working, right? Hopefully still alive. I do believe I will still be a recruiter. I really enjoy what I do. Just try to have fun. That's my thing. When I work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I that's what I do. I'm all in. I'm 150% committed to providing the best service that I can to the hiring managers that I support, the candidates that I'm working with. But when it's my time to spend with my friends and my family, I want to be the best friend. I want to be the best dad. I want to be the best husband that I can be. So I think as long as people can separate in those things into categories and make sure that they leave enough time for every part of their life, that they'll be successful. So that's what I try to do.
Good to hear that. Thank you, Michael, again for coming to our podcast. And everyone, check out Paddy the Wagon podcast, that is coming out hopefully soon. Again, Michael, thank you for the insights. I think, again, nowadays, when so many people are going through this instability in life, looking for jobs, trying to change their lifestyle and their career, I think exactly what you shared with us will be really helpful for a lot of folks out there.
Good.
Thank you,
And
Michael.
if anyone wants to reach out, you can always put somebody in touch with me. And thank you so much for having me.
We're always looking for guests of various backgrounds for our next episode. If you would like to be a guest, please email us at occupationinsightstv, one word, @gmail.com.